Okay, today is June 2nd, 2022. We're at the California Conservation Corps in Sacramento. We're going to do a training class on a BANDIT chipper model 250XP, and we have a group of folks here. So we're going to start from the very beginning, and Hunter Knoll is here. And he's going to start with the class. Go ahead,
hey
Hunter.
Guys. My name is Hunter. I'm with Cal Equipment. We're the BANDIT dealer for California. Like Mike said, you guys can call us. You could call Mike. Any questions you guys have, our number is on the machine. BANDIT also has some stickers on it if anything pops up out in the field. Like Mike just said, guys, any questions, just throw them out. Pretty simple machine. Kind of like to start. How many of you guys here have actually ran a wood chipper, whether it's a BANDIT or another manufacturer? So most of you. Okay, perfect. How many of you have ran a BANDIT 250 before? Perfect. Alrighty, so essentially, guys, this is a 12-inch disc style wood chipper. We have a 145 horsepower gas GM engine on this 6-cylinder block. Real simple machine to run. You guys will kind of, once you actually get behind it, get some brush material through it, you'll start to really get a feel for it. But with that being said, guys, we're going to start up here. We're going to start on the tongue up here, work our way around the machine. This is going to be more of a refresher on how to actually just hook up a trailer. We just have to tell you to cover that on our side. So we have a 2.5-inch style pintle hitch set up on this machine. Now that can be changed out to however you guys want if CCC wants to run a ball hitch rather than a pintle. But the way this is set up now, guys, when you back your truck up to this trailer to hook it up, first thing we want you to do when you get this tongue set down on your truck, first thing we want you to do before you start on your chains or your lights is lock down your safety latch on that pintle hook. We see it way too often to where you start that process, you get a phone call, you start moving on to the lights, you start checking your tires, you forget to lock that down, you hit the road without checking, trailer comes off your truck, and an unfortunate one is just going off to the side. Unfortunate, it's coming at someone. So make sure you lock that down first and foremost. You do always, guys, just do a quick visual check on your hardware on that pintle hook. Make sure everything is still usable. This pintle hook over time is going to wear down on that underside while it rubs on your truck while you're stopping and going. So if you guys see it, you say, hey, this thing is wearing down pretty quickly, that's going to be years down the road. But if something happens prematurely, just make sure you point that out so that gets addressed. Coming to the safety hooks, guys, again, this should just be a refresher for you. We've got one big chain running with 2 safety chains on it that hooked up to your truck. Now, the proper way we want this hooked up to your rig is a cradle style hookup on it. We don't want them just straight out like this. They do need to be cradled. A very common mistake, if you ever see me driving down the road, I'll admit to it, I do this. It's the easiest way to do it when we're moving a lot of equipment. When you're hooking it up and that chain is too long to where it's going to be dragging on the ground, the easy way to do it is you start twisting these chains up just to shorten that up and hook it up on your truck. Please do not do that. Is this going to be behind one truck and one truck only, or that one? That one? Okay, so if it's staying behind there, guys, what we would like you to do that first time you hook this up to this truck, we have a bolt here that runs through this backside. If these chains are too long and need to be shortened, what we want you to do is take this bolt all the way out, come from the backside here and pull that slack chain out and let that chain hang here rather than down here where it's going to hit that asphalt and throw sparks. If you guys are familiar, Mike lives up in Redding. That fire a few years back up in Whiskey Town was started from that exact thing and burned millions of acres. So do that. If you don't have to do it, perfect, don't worry about it, but that is how you would adjust it. Just please don't twist them up to shorten that chain up. We do have a breakaway cable on this, so if this cable, or if this trailer, excuse me, comes off your truck and this pin is pulled, it's going to lock your brakes up instantly. So right now, if we were to hook this trailer up to our truck, we could tow it, but your brakes are going to be locked. There's a little tag on this, guys. It's going to fall off after a couple weeks out in the field. It just says, please do not use this as a parking brake. A lot of companies will use this. They'll pull the brakes when working on a slope to lock your brakes up so your truck isn't moving or sliding down a hill. majority of the time when you do that, when you use this just to lock your brakes like that, you forget to put it back in at the end of the day, you hit the road, your brakes smoke, and you just find yourself in brake pad. So please use wheel chocks. I'm sure you guys have them on the truck. Just throw those down, use a log. Also, when you pull this and those brakes are applied, it is constantly running your battery. So if you leave this out overnight, you're gonna come back in the morning to a dead chipper. We've seen it happen on brand new machines. Guys leave them in their yard. I had a guy call me, delivered it Friday at 5, called me Monday morning, said I want my money back, this machine doesn't run. Went out, he left this out over the weekend, drained the battery, he had a brand new battery. So just leave this in, guys. This is only for emergency use if that comes off your trailer, or off your truck, excuse me. Pretty standard RV style hookup here. This just plugs into your truck. This is an adapter on this 6-round cord here, so this just plugs in. If this ever breaks, guys, if this ever comes out of your truck and drags along the road and you got to replace either the adapter or the cord, you could get this adapter at O'Reilly's or Napa Auto Parts. There's 2 different styles. There's a center pin auxiliary brake, and then there is auxiliary battery. Then there is a center pin e-brake, to where when you hook this adapter up on an e-brake, it's gonna lock the brakes up on your trailer right away. Again, you'll feel it. This machine's about 8,000 pounds, so you'll feel it right away. But if you don't, it is gonna smoke your brake. So again, just if you have to replace that, and again, I don't expect you to remember that, so call us if that happens, and we'll walk you through which one to get on there. Tongue jack, pretty self-explanatory, guys. When you get your trailer onto that truck, pull that pin, lay this sideways. There is the droppable leg down there. Last thing you want to do, just because it's a pain in the butt, is bottom that out to where you can't pull that jack before that jack is bottomed all the way up. Not a bad idea to put it through this pin and then crank it down a little bit more, just so you have a little more travel on that tongue jack. Any questions on how to hook the machine up to your trailer or to your truck? Perfect. So coming over here, guys, we're going to touch just quickly on this engine, just so you guys know what it is that's actually powering this. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys aren't going to be doing the actual maintenance on the engine, so we won't dive too deep into that. This is a 145 horsepower gas-powered engine. With these machines, guys, you've got an air filter system up here on the front of the housing, and then a blowing radiator that is going to blow air out. The one thing we have learned with these gas engines, especially here in California, when you hit those 110-degree days, I know you're probably not chipping, even 90-degree days. If this gets clogged up and is not properly cleaned out at least weekly, this engine is going to overheat on you, and it is going to give you problems. Once you crack that block from overheating, you're buying a new engine for this machine. It's not fun for any party. It's a pain in the butt for us. These engines are back ordered right now, expensive for CCC. So whether that is the shop's job to do that, guys, or if you guys have backpack blowers available out in the field, end of the day, lunch, just blow this radiator off, get that real thick stuff off, just so that engine can breathe while it's trying to work. If it does overheat on you, it's going to pop a code on you on your actual control screen. If it overheats without addressing that code, it's going to shut the machine off. So that will happen, but continuously it's going to damage the machine. Again, doesn't sound like something you guys are doing, but every 100 hours, engine oil filter. I won't dive into that too much unless you would like me to. Perfect. Dipstick here, guys. Oil, check your oil every day before you run. Part of our daily check. So coming over here to the actual control screen. Mike, can I snag those keys from you? Thanks, sir. So everything now is computerized on this machine, guys. It's real simple. Our startup procedure is broken down on this sticker right here. You have 4 procedures to start this machine up. Essentially, all you guys need to know, you have an off, on, and start on this machine. So when you turn the key to the on position, you're gonna hear that fuel pump start up. Bandit chippers is gonna appear on the screen. Once that goes away and you see all your gauges, that's when you're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the brightness up on this just because it's a little dim. So from here, guys, without actually starting the machine up, you can get just a feel for your actual gauges here on this screen. You got RPM in the top left, battery voltage bottom left, temperature bottom right, PSI top right, hour meeting right in the middle. If you guys see this right now, we're flashing orange and there's a stop, that triangle flashing. That is what would appear if there was a code on the engine while the engine is running. Now, if I start this up and that stays there, that just means there's something going on in the engine right now. But if you're ever out in the field and that starts popping up on you, that's what it's telling you. At that point, call us. We'll walk you through how to check that and get whatever it is addressed. There's 5 buttons on this screen. The only 2 you guys need to know: bunny rabbit brings you up, turtle throttles down. When I start this machine up, we're gonna run full throttle, about 1200 RPMs. Now, with that right there, guys, if you leave that on for too long, it is gonna shut itself off. Now that brings me to the number 3 bullet point on the startup sticker. When you shut that key off, you need to allow this machine 15 to 20 seconds to do a complete shutdown before you restart that cycle up. So just, drink some water, hang out for a second, let that cycle through its shutdown, and then restart that cycle up. So again, about 15 to 20 seconds. Now coming back, guys.
Time out. Hunter, why do you want to wait that long?
It's just allowing this computer to shut down. It's more specific for our diesel engines, but they do want that procedure followed on the gas units as well. So just allow that computer to do a complete shutdown on itself before you're recycling it, starting it right back up. Again, guys, so second from left, you'll see the little icons in here if you guys kind of want to step up a little bit if you haven't seen them yet. The bunny rabbit, again, throttles you up, turtle throttles you down. Now, that brings us onto the clutch, but before we jump there, do you guys have any questions on the screen specifically?
So, when you're starting it up,
Yes, sir.
when like the blade starts turning and stuff like that, it has a clutch and all that stuff. When do you want to start engaging the clutch?
So I'll jump on that. Let me just hit something right there real quick. When you're throttling up, guys, you have to hold that bunny rabbit down. Hold it for a few seconds. When you're idling back down, hold it for about 2 seconds. It's going to bring itself down, and then you can disengage your clutch, shut the machine off. So to answer your question, follow this sticker here. This sticker has been on Bandit's equipment since the 1980s. It's the only sticker that still remains and is the truest sticker on the machine. It shows an operator dumping the clutch in at full throttle and dollar bills coming out of the exhaust, because that is essentially what you are doing to that clutch when you're doing that. We only want this engaged and disengaged at an idle. You never want to put this clutch in, especially never want to put it in above an idle. You never want to take it out above an idle, because now your disc is free spinning at 3,000 RPMs. If we were to have a clear picture looking in here, guys, just clear plexiglass looking at this entire machine, when I start this machine up, we have a flywheel on the back of this engine housing that's spinning at 1,200 RPMs, and then you have a pack of pressurized plates in here. And when you put this handle down, those plates are compressing. It's picking up your clutch, your belt, and your disc up to 1,200 RPMs to match the speed of that engine. So a very common mispractice that operators do is they take this handle and they just dump this into gear and say, get that disc up to 1,200 RPMs right now. For those of you that have ran a chipper before, that that's not what you want to do. Now, this is a spring-loaded handle, guys, so when you go to put this in, it's going to want to kick out on its own. It's going to want to go in and snap into gear. Now, that is not the way, again, to engage this clutch. You want to use what we refer to as a bump method. So what you want to do is you want to hold this handle back against your body weight. Right about here, those plates are going to start pressing into each other. They're going to start compressing together. You're going to hear your engine RPM drop down, because again, you're picking all this up, all this dead weight from a dead stop to get it to 1,200 RPMs right now. So we want you to use what we call the bump method, to where when you hit this first point and you hear that RPM drop, you simply just bump it off and let those plates slowly start picking up inertia together. After about 3 to 5 times, everything will be up to matched RPMs. You put that in. At that point, if you're ready to start chipping, you'd hold your bunny rabbit down. As soon as that hits full throttle, your feed wheels are going to start spinning. You're going to be ready to chip. Now, same thing when you're disengaging, guys. If let's say we just got done chipping, we haven't touched anything over here, we come here and I just disengage this clutch, idle down, and then shut the machine off. Well, you just disengage everything at 3,000 RPMs. It's probably going to take you 5-10 minutes before that disc comes to a complete stop, which for safety reasons, you never want to leave that disc spinning unattended. So at an idle, when you're back down to those 1,200 RPMs, disengage your clutch, let that disc come to a complete stop. You can do just a quick visual check in here, or you can look at this angle at your back pulley. If that's still spinning, just wait a couple more seconds, let that come to a complete stop. then shut your machine down, continue on with whatever you need to do. Now, when we're engaging this, guys, when we're hitting that 3 to 5 bump on that clutch handle, if you hear anything that's out of whack, you hear your belt slapping, you smell something burning, you see smoke coming out of here or this housing, stop immediately. Please do not try and force this clutch into gear. If these plates warp, they glaze together, they smoke, whatever you want to call it, they crack, you just bought yourself a new clutch pack. Right now, those things are so back ordered, it's not even funny. So you really want to be careful on this clutch pack. This is essentially the heart of the machine, and you really want to baby this system in. Now, yes, sir.
So what would be an example of why would that be smoking?
So a common or a good shutdown procedure, guys, when you're done chipping at the end of the day, now I'm gonna get a little bit ahead of myself here, but we're gonna come back to the clutch. If you guys look, so this disc is sitting at a 45-degree angle, so it's cutting down, it's bringing the material up and broadcasting it out. After these feed wheels, you can see from here to here, you have about a foot of dead space in between your feed wheel and that actual disc. So if you have a log or a branch or really just any material, at the end of the day, you send that last log through, well, it may chip up to here and then there's no wood left on that feed wheel pushing it towards that disc, and it's gonna sit in this dead spot right here to where there's no action going on. A lot of times customers will just disengage, just shut it down, hit the road. What we tend to see happen is that material that's in that throat right there, as you go down the road, you hit a speed bump or just natural vibration, that wood falls down in that disc housing. Then when you come back to start this machine up, you try dumping this clutch in, well, now there's a wood chip that's this big that's gotten underneath that disc that's jamming that whole system up. We've seen customers all the time take this and just try and bury it in. They throttle it up, then try and drop the clutch in to get it to 3,000 RPMs right now. It's not what you want to do. When you're done chipping at the end of the day, guys, what we want you to do, run through your shutdown controls, disengage this clutch, wait those 5 minutes for that disc to come to a complete stop. I'm going to show you here in a little bit. We want you to lock this feed system out, shut the machine down, disable your hood pin up top so the machine cannot be started. Then we want you to go in, clean out that throat so no material sitting there. Now, when you guys get real familiar with this machine, very common, easy way to do that, to avoid that process, just save a branch at the end of the day that has enough meat on it. Have that go as your last piece. That way it gets sucked all the way through. You could do a visual check before you start crawling in there, guys. If you open up that feed system, you look in, you say, hey, it's clear, there's nothing sitting there, fantastic, you're good to go. You're not gonna have that problem when you go to drop that clutch and then it starts jamming up, smoking stuff on the inside.
We'll go over that here in a second.
Yeah, we'll go over how to actually check that. And same for the belts, guys, that you're slapping. Now, this is a brand new piece of rubber on this system that's transferring your 145 horsepower directly to that disc. It is a brand new piece of rubber. For training purposes, I'm gonna follow Bandit's recommendation. They say after the first 2 hours of chipping, that belt is gonna need to be adjusted. It's simply Bandit letting you know as an operator that piece of rubber is gonna stretch. It is gonna need to be adjusted right off the bat, probably a couple times before it breaks into proper adjustment. So if you're coming in, you're engaging it, guys, it's so loose that it's slapping this cover and you hear it, stop. The machine's not gonna run right for you. When a machine's not running right, you're putting yourself in harm's way by not having everything running up to par. So just stop, let the shop know so they could get that belt adjusted. Again, Mike, I'm not gonna go into too much depth to how to do that. Is that okay? Or would you like me to?
Maybe when we're done here.
Yes, sir, no problem.
Just to be clear, do you mean only in the first few initial hours of use? Or
Yes.
every couple hours?
So, thank you. So after the first 2 hours, they're gonna want you to check it. And then when you take this machine out, let's say 50 hours, you get 52 hours on it, whatever it may be. You're probably gonna have to do it again. And then maybe one more time if it's not all the way stretched. Now, the way to check that, guys, because it might be 1 hour that it gets loose. It might be 20 hours before that belt actually gets loose. There's a little tool in this battery box here, your belt tension check. So it's a two-sided tool. So you have a belt tension check on this side. What we want you to do is put this here and simply just get a feel for the tension on that piece of rubber. So if you guys, it doesn't have to be right now, but before you take this out and send that first piece of brush through it, just come up here, just get a feel for that belt and feel that tension. Now, if you read Bandit's manual, which I have open and accessible here, it sits in this case, for about 40 pounds of downforce on this tool, they want about a 1/2 inch deflection on that belt. Now, Mike's heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm not a huge fan of this tool. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, just because of the fact that everyone's elbow torque of 40 pounds is a little bit different. So I may say, hey, this is tight. You may come up, you say, hey, this is loose, needs to be adjusted, and then we're sitting there arguing about it. So the easiest way, just come up here, get a feel for it, guys. If you know what it feels like brand new and tight, then you know what to check for. It's gonna be a very telltale sign if that belt is loose. Again, if it's not slapping, you're gonna get what we call banana peels out of that discharge chute. This is one of Bandit's best chip producing machines. It's gonna give off a very clean end product. Consistently if properly maintained. So if you're getting those long banana peels, guys, where they're coming out this long, there's 3 things we want you to check. Your knives are dull, your anvil's rounded over, or your belts are loose. And if you check the other 2 real quick and those are good, chances are your belt's probably loose. Do you guys have any questions on the clutch or the belt before we continue on? Perfect. If something pops up, guys, again, just stop me. We've got a transport locking pin here. This is just going to lock that out so this doesn't helicopter on you down the road. And then we have a hand crank swivel here just to rotate this discharge chute around. Now it is 360 degrees. If that gets tight on you guys, which it's a little tight right now, there's a grease point here, then a grease point on the back of this ring back here. Those are both just as needed. If you're ever trying to turn it and it's taking a lot of force to move that, just have someone shoot some grease up in there, lubricate those plates up so it slides a little bit easier. Your discharge chute itself, guys, so we have a height adjustable jack up here, so you can really pinpoint that discharge to where you want it. Then you've got a manual flipper on the end where you can adjust your position on just straight up and down. Now, if this machine ever clogs up on you guys, which again, this is one of Bandit's highest powered, especially for a 12-inch machine with this big a disc and this big of engine, guys, if this ever clogs up on you, something is seriously out of adjustment. Chances are knives, anvil, or belt. That's typically our 3 thing. Now, if that clogs up on you guys, raise that jack all the way up in the air, pull that. I know you guys can't see because of this tent, but there's just a little rubber piece right there. Just pull that rubber portion down. That'll allow you to clean out that part of the discharge. Then you got 2 9/16 bolts here. Kick those bolts off. This door's gonna kick down. It's gonna allow you to clean out this part of the transition there. Because chances are if it does clog, it's gonna start here, then it's gonna work its way back up in here, or it's gonna catch on that little lip right there, get stuck. If your belts are loose, your anvil's out of adjustment, your knives are dull, you get big sticks coming out of it. If a stick gets caught up in there and then it just goes perpendicular to how the chips are coming out, just hits it, starts to build up, and then over time clogs up on you. So just quick little explanation on that. Do you guys have any questions on the discharge chute? Perfect. Coming here, guys, I did skip over this on this clutch pack. So per NACD on this pack up here, this is a non-adjustable spring-loaded clutch. So you guys, as operators or your shop, does not have to do any maintenance on the inside of this clutch housing. Now, with that being said, there is a bullet point here on your lubrication point. There's 3 grease zerks on this clutch house. There's one here that you guys can see. There's one up top here, and then this same one on the backside over there. Now, again, per NACD, we want 1 shot of grease in there every 100 hours. Please, please, please do not hit those daily. If you hit those daily, you're gonna get about 3 days out of this clutch, and then you're gonna be buying a new clutch pack. When you put too much grease into this clutch housing, those plates stick together, they work together, and you just smoked your clutch. So again, it's not a horrible idea. Again, as a foreman or just as an operator doing that, guys, just make sure you know it. Throw a sticker here, write it in Sharpie, whatever you got to do. 1 shot every 100 hours. Basically, easiest way I say it, 100 hours is our engine oil interval. When it goes to the shop to get the oil changed, have the shop know, hit that grease point. That way you guys don't ever have to worry about it. But just so you know. So Even right now, it's a slightly over, but it's all good there. So, any questions on this side of the machine, guys? Perfect.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are there any prefer not to be on
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
are there any zerks that need to be greased every day?
Yes, there is.
You
So,
can point those out.
so I'm gonna point those out as we go around. But that actually, you just brought me to our next
getting
point.
there.
So you got a main bearing here. Every 8 hours, it's gonna be 10 shots of grease. So to answer your question, you have 6 total that are daily. So you're gonna have 1 here, 2 here, and then the same 3 on the back side. Excuse me, forgot we're on a disc style. Your other disc bearing, guys, sits right here. It is a little hidden. It's just this grease zerk right here. Make sure you're hitting that. That's 8 hours, 10 shots of grease. Those are open bearings, so you're not gonna over grease them. If you put too much grease in them, it's just gonna come out, make a mess on you, but it's not a sealed bearing to where you have to worry about that. With that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna jump on the back side. If you guys wanna stay here, we're gonna open up that disc housing, take a look at the knives so you guys know what to check for. Yes, sir.
Are all the grease points labeled and everything?
They are, yep. So this one's actually on this back side of the housing. This one is this grease daily point. These two are these 2 arrows pointing to those. And then same on the back side for those bearings.
So they're mapped out in the manual as well?
They are
Yes,
mapped out.
there's a loop
Yep.
chart.
Yep. Cool. Well, I'm gonna jump on that side, guys. You guys can actually, if you guys want to stay over there, that would be easiest. So on our key ring, guys, we have 2 little gold locks. Little gold lock is gonna open the little gold key. Actually, if you wouldn't mind giving me a hand, could you hit that lock for me? Sorry to make you. It's a weird angle from this backside.
Okay.
Thank you. So again, guys, little gold key opens up that little gold lock. Just a safety parameter up here. Now, while she's working on that, up here, guys, we have a hook pin safety device. So if you guys kind of want to step forward, just so you can see what I'm ringing around. This is simply just a small little 6-round trailer plug that plugs into a harness up here. So what it's doing is it's finishing that connection on the engine. There's a safety sensor on this machine to where if this is unplugged, the machine is not going to run because it's a little tight. Cool, perfect, thank you. Thank you. There's a safety sensor on that, guys, to where if that plug is undone, the machine is not going to run because it's telling that computer this disc housing is open. You have direct access to that knife and disc while the machine's running. So if the machine ever shuts off on you in the middle of operation, this is the first thing we would like you to check. Chances are it wasn't plugged all the way back in last time it was open. When you get a lot of time on it and vibration starts to kick in, it's going to walk itself out. At that point, just replace the harness and the plug. You'll be good to go. So that's what this plug is up top here. Now, when we come on this back side, I'll point this out again, but just a quick walk through. You guys can see it where you are. There's a little pole on this back side, guys, with a spring on it. Right now, if I try and pull this, you can't open up that disc housing. In order to do that, you push that down, that clears access for that pin to get past. We try and make these machines as safe as possible. So as you guys can see there's 3 safety points that's gonna stop you from just opening this up at any point. So with that pin pulled, you can now pull that door and get direct access to your knives. Now, if you guys stand here, or even if you want to come on this back side, I'll jump up here and we could take a look at the hardware and the knife itself. Now, Bandit does recommend, guys, you check your knives daily, and I'm going to stick with that. Please just open this up. It takes you 15 seconds to do, as you guys saw. It'll save you so much headache and so much wear and maintenance on this machine. It's a night and day difference. If you try and run a wood chipper with dull knives, we joke about it, but it's not really a joke. You just turn this wood chipper to a wood chunker, where you're literally just hammering on that wood. Because right now, if I run my hand along those knives, my hand's gonna slice open like a fish. After, it could be 5 minutes of chipping, it could be 50 hours of chipping. All depends what you're sending through it, but over time, guys, it's gonna wear over to where you have a roundable edge like this. Now for the training, we're gonna pretend I'm wearing gloves and using tools to push this disc around. But essentially, guys, it takes you 15 seconds to just open up that housing and take a quick peek at the knives. The easiest way to do it, at least in my personal opinion, if you open this up at the end of the day, you just take a quick visual check of those knives. You see, hey, those things are, a lot of rocks went through today. They're just rounded over. They're at the end of this side. Make a mental note of that, so then when you come in the morning, you know, hey, I got to come in. We got to flip the knives before we take this thing out. As you guys know, there's nothing bigger pain in the butt. You go to take it out in the morning, you open this up, shoot, my knives are shot. Now I got to stop, flip knives, get a new set on, whatever you got to do. So just check those at the end of the day. You'll be all good to go. Now, Mike, is this something you guys are going to be changing the knives in the field?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now again, guys, if you have questions, this is all in the manual back here. And please refer to it if there are. I have to refer to it too. We would rather you know exactly what you're doing on this than guess and make a mistake and someone get hurt or killed. So when you open this up, guys, let's pretend, hey, these knives are rounded over. We need to flip them. What we want you to do, it looks like for whatever reason the pin is actually missing from this machine. So there's a pin that would sit back here on the frame, guys, in this little triangle piece of metal. You would pull that pin and you would stick it. There's a little rectangle tube sitting underneath this holder. You would stick that pin in, and then there's rectangular tube on the disc. That's gonna lock that disc into place so it doesn't turn on you while you're trying to do that rotation. No, that's for the yoke lock. We could use that just for right now, but thank you. It is missing that pin on there. The pin's gonna look like this pin here, just this one's welded chain to the thing. For training, we'll just use that yoke lock bar. There we go, thanks. So once that pin is locked, guys, this disc isn't gonna go on you while you're trying to change those knives. Now, this disc has 4 knives on it. So you've got 2 here on this one pocket, then you flip the disc around, you pull that pin, flip it around, you have 2 more knives on the bottom side. Anytime you guys are adjusting, maintaining, flipping, taking a look, guys, you need to take a look at a set of 4. A very common mispractice we see is you look at it, one knife has a big chunk taken out of it, and you say, hey, I'm just gonna flip that one knife. You can't do that. These need to stick together in a set of 4. Whether you're resharpening them, you're flipping them, you're putting a new set on, whatever the case may be. So once you're ready to get this, get these knives flipped, guys, you got 15/16 nuts on this backside. You have an Allen wrench on this side, which I'll check the manual when we're done. I believe it's a 3/8 Allen, but we'll triple check that. You're gonna break these bolts loose. Breaker bar works best for this. Take these bolts all the way out. You're gonna take these knives off. If you have like just a flat edge, like a scraper of some kind, scrape this pocket clean, guys. Just there's gonna be a little dirt buildup on there. Clean that out. If you have high pressured air, just blow that out, get all the debris off of that. Flip your knife around. So now you'd be working that back edge, which again, I know you can't see it right now because it's on that side. You'd put that knife back on. When you put these bolts back in, guys, I cannot stress this enough. These bolts need to be torqued down to 180 foot-pounds. Please, please, please do not just use a breaker bar and say these are nice and tight. 180. Very highly recommend you get a torque wrench, put it in the toolbox just so it's with you guys while you're out in the field. Again, that's in the manual. If you forget that number, I would write it up here. If it's your responsibility, get that tattooed on your wrist so you never forget that number. Under torque knives are just as bad as over torque knives. If you say these are nice and tight, wood goes through, they're not nice and tight, those knives come off. At that point, guys, there's no telling you where that knife is going. It might come out that way, might come out the discharge, might come back out at you. We've seen them go all directions. So you need to be very, very cautious when you're doing that you're actually torquing those down to proper torque on there. Do you guys have any questions on your knives or how to check them or anything pertaining to the knife or disc?
Why don't you talk about sharpening?
So Mike just said, guys, about sharpening. So Bandit does offer a tool. It's their knife saver kit. It's just a little thing. Jokingly, I hope Bandit doesn't see this on the video. I take them home for my kitchen knives. That's really about all they work for. You can run them along that blade when there is still a workable edge on there, but once those knives have rounded over so far, if you just try and use that to work a new edge on there, guys, you're wasting your time. I don't know if there's a shop up here. I'm sure there is somewhere in Chico that sharpens knives. We do it in Sacramento. You can box them up, ship them to us. We throw them on it. It's a full machine that reworks that edge. Please do not take a die grinder and try and rework that edge yourself. These are at such a precise angle that when you do that, you change the pitch on that knife, you just ruined a $400 set of knives. So please don't try and resharpen them yourselves unless you would like to get the Bandit Knife Saver Kit, then please be my guest. Any questions on the disc, guys? Beautiful. If you want to pull that. Thank you, sir. Well, then we're going to close this up, guys, and we'll go ahead and jump back on the back side.
Go over that procedure about shutting it.
Yeah, so to lock this up, guys, once that's closed, put this pin in. Again, you're going to have to push that down to get it over that little pin. Push that up. So this is done now. We have that little gold lock. This is just going to go through that pin there, lock out, and then your hood pin safety device. You may have to rotate this handle around just to give you a little more cable. Push that in. We're good to go now. Please make sure when you're done with that, guys, please make sure you pull that pin out. If you forget to pull that pin, you go to dump that clutch in. That's when you're going to start smelling that clutch burn and seeing smoke billowing out. So just make sure you pull that. So we'll jump back on that other side and keep working our way around. Now again, right here, guys, is where our safety manual is located. Just slides into here, sits in there if you need to reference that at all. So coming here to this system, guys, now this yoke bar lock, this bar is going to be used. We have our lift cylinder on this. When you hit this bar back, this is going to open this feed system up to give you better access to fit that bigger material through. Now, if you put a piece in there that's too big, it gets jammed up, you need to maintenance your anvil, whatever the case may be. You could pull this bar lock, put that pin, it would slide through there, slide through that hole, it would lock that feed system up, which I'm going to do that here in just a second to lock it up. But before we do that, guys, we've got our anvil here. So I'm not going to go too much into depth on the anvil because that's going to be the shop's job to actually maintenance that. Your anvil is the second side of the pair of scissors that's actually cutting the wood. So your knife is what's cutting the wood. The anvil is what the wood is being cut off of. It's that edge that the wood is being jammed against. So over time, it's a four-sided piece of steel. These three bolts just bolt in and hold it, and then that disc is cutting. Now your clearance between the knife and the anvil, guys, should be this thin. You should take this tool, and again, we could do this later with the shop. You put this in, it would wrap around the anvil. Let's just pretend it's on the inside. And that knife should clear that tool by just the width of this tool. So if it's any wider, you're gonna get a lot of bigger chunks coming out of the machine. If it's any narrower than that on this machine, it's not really gonna cut. It's gonna give you literally paper thin pieces. At that point, if it's that tight, you're not gonna have enough weight on the chips to get it out of the discharge. It's just gonna clog up on you. So it's more so too far of a gap. Now, it is a four-sided piece of steel, guys. Again, just like that knife, right now, you have a very sharp edge on it, you know, let's just say like this. And over time, as that wood is being cut and it's sliding off of that plate is gonna round over and it will need to be adjusted. So eventually it's gonna round over to where it's like this. At that point, that is on you as the operators, guys, just to keep an eye on your material. Again, going back to those banana-sized pieces, if you're getting them and you're saying, hey, these are brand new knives, these belts are nice and tight, chances are your anvil's rounded over to where you don't have that edge on it anymore. That wood is just sliding off and going into the machine. Again, I know that's a little much thrown at you guys. Do you have any questions on the anvil? Perfect. One thing I did skip over, guys, just popped in my head while we had that open. On your hardware itself, we talked about resharpening the knives. Your hardware itself, the knife and bolt, every other time you take those out, we want that hardware replaced. Please get them through us, factory recommendation, OEM parts. I'm not here trying to sell you parts. Please stick to manufacturer on that. Every other time, guys, just get rid of that hardware and get new sets in there. Over time, those threads are going to loosen up or tighten up, and just puts too much stress on those bolts where accidents could happen.
Okay, so one question on a drum chipper, which is different than this disc chipper. Can you go over like a disc chipper? We've talked a lot about the chips being banana sized or banana looking and not good, but why don't you explain what you would look for if you said, hey, everything's running well, this is what my chips ought to be looking like?
Yeah. So what Mike was asking, guys, Bandit makes two different styles of chippers. Now, when we first started, I referenced this as a disc style. So this is Bandit's 12-inch disc style chipper, and then they make a drum style where it's more of a barrel on the inside of it rather than this actual disc. Disc is referring to the actual flywheel that the knives are bolted to. So that big 45-inch diameter piece of metal we just played with, that's your disc. A drum would just literally be, it looked like a big barrel on the inside. So what Mike is referring to, especially on our discharge power and our chip quality, a drum, I know it's a little hard to imagine without actually ever seeing one. You got, beautiful. Okay, perfect. So what is it? Morbark. Sorry guys, that sucks, but
no, trust me, we know.
hey, that's on video. No, so you guys are familiar with a drum where you're coming straight down on that wood, you're chipping. It's going to cut the wood no matter what, whether your knives are hammered or not. It will hammer that wood, even if those knives. You could run that machine. I'm not saying you could run that machine without knives, and it would still give off a little bit of a chip. From that pocket edge. Now a disc is completely different, guys. So a disc is spinning in this revolution to where it's cutting the wood down here, it's bringing it up into this transition and then straight out. This is gonna outthrow that drum style chipper or any drum style chipper by 10 times. Your drum style, let's say we'll get to this bend, this chipper will hit that building with chips. It's not actually that far, but it's a little far-fetched there. But just so you guys know, this thing should have so much power. That first material you put through it, you guys stand back and say, whoa, that's a powerful machine. We want it to perform like that. You guys want it to perform like that. If it's not running like that, again, something is out of adjustment. You're putting yourself in harm's way running the machine that way.
Yeah, the chips will become bigger and not throw as far, so
exactly.
It'll come out and drop.
When you get a lot of weight on a chip, guys, or a banana peel, like Mike just said, you lose that velocity just because of the size of that trying to get out. As you guys can see, this discharge is a pretty long discharge chute to get that material out. So you really want a clean, consistent chip for the manufacturer to get that material out of that discharge chute. Continuing moving on, guys, just so you guys know what this is, you don't have to do any maintenance to the motors. These are your hydraulic motors that are actually turning your feed wheels, that's pulling that material in. Now, just to reiterate, you do have your 2 daily points. You have a grease point down there, grease point right here. Every 8 hours, 10 shots of grease. Just make sure you're hitting that. Now, underneath your bottom feed wheel, guys, Bandit runs a system, our bottom trap door. Now, does the Rayco have that? Yeah. It does? Okay, perfect. So you guys are familiar with that. Pull those pins, that door kicks open. If this was my machine, guys, I would run that door open 100% of the time. When you have that door open, you're allowing any material that gets picked up with the brush, any rocks or smaller branches, even dust or dirt, to fall back onto the ground rather than go through the feed system and damage your knives. As I hit on earlier when we were up there, a set of knives, guys, is about $400 right now, and it's only going up. You need to be extremely cautious of what you're sending through this machine. It is a wood chipper, and again, I'm going to say this when we get to the back, only wood should be going through this machine. Again, as you guys know, no rocks, no steel, plastic, whatever it may be besides wood. So with that bottom trap door open, that allows that non-wood material, your rocks, anything picked up to fall back onto the ground rather than go through and damage. So just on that system there. Again, we talked about the lift cylinder. If you guys have not ran a Bandit, that is what sets us apart from our competition, is the feed system right here on the machine. With that, you get about 3,000 pounds of down pressure onto that material. It's going to allow for a straight up and down feed opening rather than Rayco or Morbark. They pivot back away from the wood. I'm not going to jump into too much of that on the video, but this is our system here on the Bandit. So that opens straight up and down. Again, that's through this lever. You got a handle on this side, handle on the back side to open that feed system up and down as you please. You do have yoke springs here, guys. If you're ever chipping, let's say like blackberry or palm, I don't know how much of either of that you guys run into. Even manzanita, something real stringy, tough to process through. We have 2 springs on this feed system. You got a spring on this side and a spring on that side with just a little cotter pin going through. So as this box slides up, this spring is naturally going to want to pull it back down. So it's giving you even more pulling power coming down rather than just your hydraulics crushing back down. Now, again, if you guys are working on real stringy material, that blackberry, that palm, to where you really need it to get a grip to pull that material in, you can pull this pin, raise this pin, and raise it up to the top point to really stretch that spring out. I show you what I'm talking about. So, that pin, that's going to slide through that top point. So now that you guys can see where it wasn't painted, now when that goes up, that spring is going to pull back down even harder just because you got more tension coming down on it. So you should not have to mess with that too much, guys. You've got hydraulic power on that cylinder. Sorry, I know I'm yelling at myself there. You should not have to mess with those springs too much, guys. That's really just operator preference. If you guys want to adjust that, it's nothing too serious.
That is actually a good idea to do that, and the reason is that there was this exact machine, California Conservation Corps in Redding didn't do that. Not that that was good or bad. It's just, you know, you start to throw a lot of brush through and you're not thinking about it. But all those vines never got chipped up, and they went past and then got on the back side of that disc, and then it ended up locking it up. So rather than pushing a lot of pressure on it, getting it through a little at a time and chipping it, it was just throwing it up in there because there wasn't enough tension on there. So that's just something, I mean, that's probably a million to one thing, but that definitely happened. Definitely happened.
So then, when adjusting it, could you get through grapevine usually?
Grapevine's not ideal. It will chip it. That will definitely help, but I mean, whatever your guys' policy is, I'd stay with it. Personally,
I mean,
I'd say.
generally speaking, I would say definitely do not chip blackberries, but anything viney. We don't have palms like hardly anywhere around here. Yeah, I think somebody might have cut it like a month or 2 ago for the first time. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yupping around, but
Yep.
okay, we don't do that.
Beautiful. Then
Just wreaks havoc.
Then you
It
shouldn't
wreaks
have
havoc.
to do it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so you guys know what all these hoses and wires coming in here are. So this is our auto feed solenoid. So this, I'm sure the Morbark has it too. That's our reversing auto feed on there, guys. So we have parameters set on this engine. When you're running at full throttle, you shove a 12-inch log through this machine, it's gonna naturally slow your disc down. You've got a 300 RPM drop on this engine to where, let's say it's running at 2,800 RPMs. When you shove a 12-inch log through and it drops that engine down to 2,500 RPMs, it's gonna back that wood off of the disc. Your feed wheels are gonna go into reverse for about a quarter of a second. You barely even notice it. It pulls that wood off the disc. This engine picks itself back up, then it continues to feed. Correct me if I'm wrong, that Morbark has that system. Beautiful. So that's what that solenoid is there, just so you guys know. Now, momentary bypass here on this handle, guys. CCC orders their machines with this hydraulic bump bar. Again, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. It's just an extra safety device on the machines to when you're feeding. If you accidentally bump that with your leg, the idea is if you're being pulled in and you hit it, it stops the feed system, allows you to get out of the way. Chances are it's going to be a branch or some kind of wood. It's not the greatest design for any manufacturer, but that's just how CCC orders them. So safety point there, guys. This handle, if you have to bypass that for just a second to allow your hydraulics to run, just hit that handle. That'll spin your feed system for about half a second, allow that material to go through. At that point, come back here, reset your bar, and then continue feeding.
So if you're running some logs and you're gonna trim that log, what part of that tree, of that log that's down, would be most important with a bump bar?
So as far as feeding, if I'm understanding you correctly, when feeding bigger material, guys, we always want to go butt end first. So we want to go with the bigger end of the machine first. Again, this should be a refresher for you guys because this is a practice on every machine. When you go butt end first, it allows that bigger material to process through that machine right away. If you go smaller end first, it's getting gradually bigger as it goes. If the butt end of it is too big, it'll jam up in your feed system and clog that throat up. Now, when you're pushing that material through, guys, any branches or sticks coming off of it, try and trim the. I'm gonna wait a second. Can you guys hear me all right? All right, perfect. So when you're going with those logs, try and trim those branches off, guys, just so as they pass through, they aren't hitting that bump bar, slowing you down. As much as you can, if you trim those knuckles, those branches off, that wood will just glide right over it and not give you any problems.
Yeah, it's the bottom. It's the bottom that hangs up all the time. Easiest to trim the log on the top, hardest to like get it through.
Beautiful. We'll go, let's open this up, guys. So, lockable in-feed tray. Now, I'm sure this looks a little bit different from your Rayco and your Morbark, a little bit bigger of a opening in-feed tray. Again, guys, we're gonna want you to practice the same procedures on the Morbark, any chipper you're feeding behind. I have to cover it real quick just to say we did. This machine, guys, as you feed the material in, it's gonna naturally pull to the left because of that angle of the disc of cutting. So, especially when you're feeding from this side of the in-feed, guys, you wanna have your material, you send it through to the machine, you get out of the way, go get your next bite of brush. You do not need to stand here and watch it. Especially on this machine, you guys are gonna find out really quickly, if you stand here, this material is coming quick and it's gonna slap you and it's gonna hurt. It'll be a quick learning lesson, hopefully. So get out of the way. As often as possible, guys, we want you to feed from that side of the in-feed tray for that reason. It's gonna kick this way, so if you're over there, you're out of the way. Also, all of our shutdown controls are on that side of the machine. And majority of the time, that's gonna be curbside. This is gonna be roadside. So as often as possible, feed from over there. Now again, just to cover this, guys, you bump that bump bar. It is tight right now because it's brand new. You've got to reset on either side of the in-feed. Just bump that handle up, get it out of the way. Control bar runs across both sides of the in-feed tray. This is the brain, if you will, of the machine. This overrides any electronic, any safety on the machine. This is the most important safety device on this unit. So when you pull out to feed, right now, if we started it, those feed wheels are spinning, it's taking anything in. You push that to reverse. Again, guys, this is brand new. Let that paint wear off. It'll loosen up on you. You push it into reverse. Right in the middle, right about there, there is a neutral to where it's going to stop that feed system. If you start it up and the feed system's not going, and you already checked your reset and your bar is good, just make sure this isn't stuck in neutral. Just pull it back out into feed. Now, if you find yourself in the scenario where you're being pulled in, we want you to grab these last chance cables and pull those cables back. That's just pulling these two cables, pulling that bar into reverse. Now, we call them the last chance cables. We jokingly, you may have heard it before, call it the no hope ropes. If you have to rely on these, you have no hope, you're already through the machine. Please, please, please do not rely your life on these small little orange cables that you're desperately grabbing for as you're being pulled through a wood chipper to your death. So it's a little gruesome, but please, guys, don't put yourself in that scenario. Never feed the machine from right here. This is the most dangerous position on the machine. Not only do you have a straight shot at that wheel, if anything comes back out, it's gonna come right at your body. That's why we want you on the side of the machine at all times. Bandit is gonna supply you with this little tool here. So the idea behind this, guys, is it is completely made of wood. We want you to use this device to push that material to that feed system. Now, if you guys see right there, this corner is going to catch. This tool is going to go through this machine on the first day of chipping, as it's designed for. It is completely made of wood. No harm is going to be caused to the machine when this goes through. With that being said, when it does grab that, guys, please don't try and fight the machine. I'll admit it, I've done it when I first started chipping on them. You try and pull this back out, it's going to kick up, hit your knuckles up here. It's going to kick down, hit your knuckles down here. Just let it go. Now, when this does go through, please do not replace this with this holder here with any rakes, steel, plastic, metal, anything other than this tool. I have to tell you, for Bandit's recommendation, this is the only tool that was designed to go into this holder here. It's going to be very tempting to throw a rake in there. I understand. You can get another one of those, guys. Branches work wonders on these machines. Branches are designed to go through this chipper. Use a branch with a fork on it or just a bigger end to push that material through. The reason we supply that through, guys, is so you aren't reaching in here trying to push that small stuff to your feed system, putting yourself in harm's way. You should never be reaching past this half point on this in-feed tray. That's too far in for your limbs to be going. Also, guys, please do not stand on the in-feed tray to kick material in. It is just not very smart. I'm a big fan of Darwinism, but we'll edit that part out. Firewood sized chunks, guys. Now again, going back to that dead space on the machine, you have your feed system and your flywheel spinning back there. You have that about foot long dead space. Firewood sized pieces are not ideal on this machine, or even the Rayco or any chipper for that matter. A lot of times what happens is you have that little chunk of wood, you throw it, it bounces off that feed wheel, and it's gonna stop right here, and you're gonna have every inclination to try and push that material in just because it's right there. You're right there, you can get it in. Please don't do that. As often as possible, leave your material in 3 foot or longer pieces. That way you have enough wood on it, one, to get it in, but then that way if that auto feed does kick on, you have enough material to where those feed wheels still have the material in its grip before it stalls that machine out. So again, firewood sized pieces, if you have to for whatever reason, with this machine, you have an operator on that side. If they open up your feed system to where that's open, you can throw that material in, aim for that bottom feed wheel. Once it hits that feed wheel, operator lets go of that handle, that feed wheel comes down, pulls your material into the machine. Do you guys have any questions on how to feed this chipper, or any chipper for that matter? Beautiful. Coming around to this side, guys. Just about done. I appreciate your guys' eagerness today. Locking pin here on either side of the in-feed tray. You're gonna lock that pin up on that little lip there. There is one on that side. This is a pretty heavy in-feed tray, guys, with all that hydraulics and just how much metal is back here. Please be careful when you're lifting that. Don't throw your back out trying to be Superman. It is pretty heavy, especially with that hydraulic on there. So make sure both pins are up, and then you can shut that. It's gonna slide on this, lock into those holes, and you're good to go. Again, just to show you, yoke lift for your feed system. This bar, we talked about on that side, runs on this side too, so you have access on both sides. Again, push your paddle, sits here on this holder. Your yoke spring is back here, that secondary one. Our last 2 daily grease points, guys, you got one here, one there on that bottom feed wheel. Again, that's gonna wrap up our 6, so hit those 6 every day.
Make sure those spring pins match too. If you move one, you gotta move the other one.
Oh, yeah. So on your yoke springs, guys, Mike was just saying, if you adjust one up, make sure you adjust both of them just so they aren't pulling, lopsided on that feed system. If you're gonna be locking that up for an extended period of time, whether it's overnight or just a few hours, not a horrible idea to pull that pin and let those springs free float rather than stretch them out and overstretch those springs. You're just shortening the life on them when you do it that way. We love the parts business. It's just not the smartest thing to do. So pull that pin when you lock it up for a long time. Hydraulic tank here, guys. Now, obviously you guys can see this has got a pretty good leak on it. This needs to be addressed before it goes out in the field. Probably just needs some thread tape on there just to clean everything up. While we're talking about leaks, guys, it's not It's not uncommon, especially on a brand new machine. This has obviously never had wood go through it, so our hydraulics have never had real pressure, real chipping pressure on it. After the first day, or even at lunchtime on your first day of chipping with this unit, just have someone be responsible. Do a quick walk around on the machine, make sure no leaks popped up. If they did, just address them real quick, clean it up, tighten that hose up just to address that leak. If you want to bring it back in, that's really up to you guys, however that works. Just so you guys know, hydraulic oil here, gasoline here. Pretty hard to put gas into oil and oil into gas now. We try and make it as foolproof as possible. There is a pin here. You can put a lock through there just so no one can come in. Not a bad idea if you get people messing with gas. Throw a lock in there. You do have a neck behind this system, behind this plastic cap. You cannot fit a diesel nozzle in there. We've still somehow seen it done. Please just be aware, guys, gasoline, you'll smell it right away. Make sure the right fuel is going in there. You're not putting diesel in the gas, vice versa. Coming around to this side, guys, we're just about done. Again, I appreciate your patience today. Lockable toolbox here. This is the same key system as your battery box on the other side, so you guys could put whatever tools, water, whatever you guys need in there. Serial number tag is over here. Radiator, guys, a couple things I want to touch on. Again, just blowing that off at the end of the day, just to get that thick stuff off that radiator so it doesn't start overheating on you. One thing we didn't talk too much on, guys, and I don't know CCC's policy with this, how often are you guys working with rope around the machine? Okay. Just to cover it, guys, just so everyone's aware of it, any rope around this machine, you need to be extremely cautious. Very good practice. If you have 100 feet of rope around or in a tree, the machine is 200 feet away. That way you physically cannot feed that rope through. When that rope goes through, there's no telling what's going to happen. A few years back, has anyone seen the video we did of a dummy going through the machine? I'm gonna pull this up on YouTube, guys. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on the machine? That about wraps up our training today.
Want to run it?
Yeah, we could start it up if you guys want. Run it, drop everything in.
We can show that video in a minute.
Okay. A video showing a video. Cool. Well, we'll jump on that side, guys. We'll start it up here. Alrighty, so a couple quick things, guys, you want to check. Let's pretend we just got done chipping at the end of the day, or you're starting it up for the first time in the morning, especially with that in-feed tray, guys. Again, not sure of CCC's policy, but we see it too often. Guys put cones, they put backpack blowers, leaf blowers, you name it, into that in-feed tray just as an extra storage. See it way too often. They forget to check that. They fire the machine up, drop everything in, throttle up, chip whatever was in that in-feed tray. So before you get started at the beginning of the day, drop that in-feed tray down, guys. Just take a quick peek, make sure nothing's in there. Our hood pin is plugged in up top because we just did that. Our disc pin is taken out, so that disc is not going to be stalled up. So now we are ready to start the machine. So coming, again, you're just going to turn that key to the on position. Now, once that cycles through, you see all your gauges, that's when you're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna turn this over. What I'm gonna do, guys, if this is what you guys would like to do, I'm gonna drop the clutch into gear, throttle up, run all of our hydraulics. Gonna be a little hard to hear me. If you guys have questions, just raise your hand, we'll shut everything down. But go ahead and so you guys hear that RPM jump right there when you started. It's gonna jump up and it's gonna come back down. So on your screen, it's gonna jump around 1200 RPM. So that's where you wanna be at. Now, before I do this, I am gonna drop this control bar into reverse. That way, when you fire it up, it's not sucking in and it wouldn't push anything out. now those RPMs, it's nice and smooth. It's not as rocky where it's going to stall that engine out, but it's not so slow that you're standing here all day. You just need to bump it a few times. Now I'm going to throttle this up, guys. We'll go around the back. We'll get everything running just so you guys can see all the functions on the machine. But again, your money rabbit, hold that down, that brings you up. Guys, we're just running at an idle. That disc is still turning. Our clutch is disengaged. Up again, it's disengaged and dropping down. If you guys want to jump up and engage that clutch, just get a feel for it. Not totally up to you guys, but that essentially. Do you guys have any questions on the functions of the unit?
Let's practice. Wait about 5 minutes, wait for that disc to come to a complete start, and then you can shut it off and continue on with your day.
You're saying warm up, would you warm it up with the clutch engaged?
Thank you. So, yes, when you're warming up, guys, or idling, I got it disengaged right now just so you guys can feel it. Anytime you're letting the machine just sit here and run on itself, this is any machine, the Morvar 2, you want that clutch engaged. What's happening when it's not is your flywheel, again, is spinning at 1200 RPM. You got a pilot bearing in the middle that's spinning on itself. When everything is compressed, those plates are properly compressed together, that pilot bearing is recessed into that clutch pack to where it's spinning at RPM. When it's not, it's sitting there spinning on its own, and it's just cutting the life down of that pilot bearing. So, yes, thank you. Anytime you're idling, letting it warm up, have that clutch engaged, just so it's all spinning together as well. You guys want to try it, or you good? Getting all good? We'll shut that down. We'll pretend that disc is at a complete stop. Yeah, guys, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, let us know. Again, our number's on it. You can call Mike. His number's on the backside. Call Bandit directly. Any way we can help you out if anything pops up. Beautiful. Thank you, guys.